In Pit Lane is proudly brought to you by the Australian Sports Sedan Association and the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship. Welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane. Yes, that very, very cinematic Orson Welles style opening brought to you by our director tonight, Sean. And we welcome you to another edition of In Pit Lane, coming to you live on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, also on Facebook Live, and of course right across Melbourne and Geelong on Channel 31. Speaking of Geelong, in a magnificent segue, coming up this weekend down at the Geelong Motorsport Complex, there'll be a day of autocross and Khanacross. What is autocross? What is Khanacross? And what is happening in the vibrant world of Geelong Motorsport? We'll be finding out with Matt Prins from the Geelong Motorsport Club a little bit later on in the program. We'll have live music from Nick Stratford a little bit later on as well, and of course all of the news. But you know, one of the things that over the years that's made following motorsport so very different from other forms of sport is the equipment that its athletes use. I mean, they develop a strong fan base of its own. Like, unlike, you know, cricket bats, tennis rackets, footballs or basketballs, the cars and the bikes we see on the track tend to have their own fan base, and certain cars actually attract their own sort of cult following, often regardless of their success or otherwise on a racetrack. Now, drag racing, of course, is famous for the popularity of significant cars, like here in Australia, cars like the Psycho 2, the Bounty Hunter, the Shaker and the Spoiler were all featured on my bedroom wall up until the point I discovered the RC Cola Girl. Internationally, cars like the Opel Mantra that competes at Nürburgring and the VLN has developed such a cult following, it actually has its own Facebook page. Well, here in Australia, a car that's developed a similar following is Richard Bendel's Daytona Coupe. The car's been a part of the Victorian state racing scene for over a decade, but in the past few years, it's developed an international following through its regular appearances at the Bathurst 12-hour race and the international commentary from the team at Radio Le Mans. But time catches up with all of us in the end, and back in July, the Daytona had its final race in the Victorian State Championships at Sandown. It was very much an end of an era, but for car owner Richard Bendel and driver Ben Schutz, it was also the beginning of an exciting new one.
This particular car's done 3 targets. It's filled up nearly 2 logbooks. It never stops racing. It's done 5 12 hours and about 4 1-hour races. It's just a really good club car.
It's pretty old school cool really, and a bit different, and there's some inherent issues with it being a 1965 shape, but it's quick for what it is.
Well, basically as a kid in 65 when I first saw them, I thought it was the best looking car I'd ever seen. I always said one day. Anyway, one day arrived and we bought a shell in from America, and it was so bad. It was like 4 inches out on the diagonals. The A-pillars were about 10 degrees different in angles. So we cut it into 6 slices one way and 3 the other, and just used it somewhere to put plaster on. We went through about half a tonne of plaster, and we made our own body, which is what you see. And as we developed it, we found some of the shortcomings aero-wise on it, particularly when it started going quickly. Bathurst, we've been recorded twice at 308k in it. Then I got friendly with Pete Brock from California, who designed the cars originally for Carroll Shelby. And he said, yes, at the time we knew all about low drag, but we knew nothing about downforce. And what we've done is to try and pick up that areas of downforce that was sadly missing, and we can only go as far as we've gone because the car is essentially a very small vehicle. It has the same wheelbase as an MGB. It's just a small car.
At the 12 hour we get people coming up to us and they've travelled from overseas just to see that car, so pretty exciting, and it always gets a bit of attention. It's just a bit different, so you know, it's not all old school. It's got some modern, very modern bits in it, but the shape itself is that old shape, which is a bit of a classic really. And a lot of people come up and say, what is it? And so yeah, it's quite exciting, but yeah, it really does have a cult, and a lot of people love it, and it's a crowd favourite at the endurance events. When we went to Sepang, we had a lot of people come up there too. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's sort of sad to see it retire, but yeah, hopefully they still take it out here and there, and maybe just at a sprint or something, and we'll see it around still.
We have people that come from overseas, you know, that arrange their holidays to see the car, and I miss that because it's been a lot of fun. And that's not going to be replaced, but it's hard to do battle with these guys. You know, when you're looking at a car that costs nominally $200,000 against something that's, you know, $750,000. But we run to what level we can afford, and we really can't afford to do other than be careful. But you get good things like Jamie pulled out and passed the factory AMG Benz down Conrod Straight at Bathurst on the Friday, and the roar that went about the pits was worth everything. And anyway, after the practice was over, the driver came in his factory Benz uniform and stood next to the car. He looked it up and down. The only thing he said was, turned around and walked out.
It brings a smile to your face when you drive by down the straight, these Bentleys and Ferraris and Audis, but yeah, it's that's where we need to make hay, because they're really all over us in the corners. So yeah, that's our strength, and it's good fun. And sometimes you get a cheer as you go past down the straight from the crowd, so it's always nice.
The new car docked this morning at 2:30, and by the time the customs get finished with it, they want to x-ray it, so it'll probably be end of the week at the earliest we'll see it. But the engine transmission is ready to go. The car is a complete GT4, but we won't be running it in GT4 trim. As I say, I crawled all over the cars at Fair Show and asked them how much they were, and I thought that's not a bad deal. And I rang the Motec dealer in Europe who'd sold him the Motec equipment that they come with, asked him, you know, what's this guy like to deal with? He said he's really good. He said, oh, by the way, I just got off the phone because he's been asking me about you.
It sounds pretty good. They're getting some good results in Europe, and I think it's got a load of potential. So yeah, it's very exciting. There's a lot of symmetry actually between that and this, even though that's a more modern shape. Yeah, so it sort of makes sense for Daytona sports cars to go that way, if they want to keep mixing it with the Audis. You know, as they get faster every year, they come out with an update or a few years, so they get faster, and we think we've reached the end of development on this one. So yeah, that was the decision to go that way. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. Looking forward to that.
You're watching In Pit Lane right across Melbourne and Geelong on Channel 31. We're going to take a break now, but when we come back, speaking of Geelong, we'll be joined by Matt Prins from the Geelong Motorsport Club to talk about the motorsport scene down the Moorabool Highway. So stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. And if you're watching us on YouTube, this is about the time where we will ask Matt if he will come in and join us. So if you can come alongside us. Matt was there, and while Matt is doing there, thank you for that. And if we need, are you comfortable? Are you enjoying yourself? What do you think of the show so far?
Very good, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks for the invite.
That's good. I'm glad. We're feeling confident. Okay, now I should tell you once again to say thank you to the people who basically make this series of In Pit Lane possible once again. Listen, what are you doing for the last weekend in September? I mean, I know there's some football match on or something, but if you're in Victoria, you've got a 3-day weekend, so why not make a grand weekend really great and head down to Phillip Island for round 4 of the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship. It's a highlight of the grand finale of the 2018 Victorian state racing scene, and apart from Australia's fastest racing sedans, you're also going to see a massive card of open wheels, improved production, sports cars and a whole lot more. I don't know, that's in that Richard Bendel's car, that might even be ready in time and might be down there, so who knows, we might check that out. Let's keep our fingers crossed. It's going to be a great motorsport weekend, so why not bring the family down and take the opportunity to check out all of the island's other famous tourist attractions and natural wonders. Bring the kids, sit and watch from the comfort of your own car, or take a walk across the bridge and take a wander around the paddock to see the cars close up. There's no extra charge for paddock access, unlike certain other events where you need to sell an internal organ or a close family member to afford a weekend at the races. It's happening on September the 22nd, 7th and 28th, and it's round 4 of the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championships at Phillip Island. And once again, In Pit Lane and RMO TV Student Television would like to thank the Australian Sports Sedan Association for their ongoing support of In Pit Lane. Well, we're just about ready for to come back in just a moment before my voice dies completely. And so when you're ready, Pete.
Coming back in. We're doing the sponsor slip stream.
Second segment.
Okay. Coming back in. 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane on Channel 31. Now, if you go down to Geelong on the weekend and you head anywhere near the AVALON airport, you're going to see a lot of dust and lots of noise, because out there is the Geelong Motorsport complex, very heavily used sort of complex out there for a lot of events. And coming up this weekend is AUTOCROSS and Khanacross. What is AUTOCROSS? Indeed, what is Khanacross? And more importantly, why? To find out about this and all matters Geelong Motorsport, joining us from the Geelong Motorsport Club is Matt Prins. Matt, welcome to In Pit Lane.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Geelong's got a very strong and long tradition of motorsport. Tell us about the Geelong Motorsport Club, first of all.
Geelong Motorsport Club was an incarnation of the former Renault Car Club down in Geelong. It basically spurred itself from the Renault Car Club into a multidiscipline. It was involved with bitumen and also with rallying at the time. It's consolidated down over time to more focusing on the dirt circuits such as Khanacross, Motocross, Motorcana. A lot of the dirt stuff are related. That was also hosts events for the VCAS rounds as well, which is a state series.
So we know I think most of us know what Motorcana is. What's the difference between Motorcana and Khanacross and Autocross?
Khanacross is basically similar to Autocross in the respect that it can run a circuit. It's limited in the length. It's also limited in how long a straight can be. It also has a start-finish garage, similar to what a Motorcana does, and you're obviously timed as you leave the garage and as you enter a garage on start and completion, whereas an Autocross is a flying start and flying finish.
So it sounds like it'd be a really good thing for like young people to get involved, wanting to learn how to drive and get car control, because that's what we used to do. I mean, people of my age, we get out in the paddock bomb and we'd slide the car all over the place, and you had that car control. This is a great opportunity to still do that sort of thing.
It is. It's brilliant. With Khanacross, you sort of blend the elements of Autocross. So you've got a lot more cornering, you've got a bit more speed involved, whereas Motorcana, you're very limited in the speed. You've got your witches hatch, your obstacles, obviously. But your starting entry is a lot younger than what Autocross is.
So how young do people get involved?
You can get involved, just trying to think, it was 14 years old. I think you can actually get down to 12 years old as well, depending on the event. You've got passengers as well. You need to have a passenger to assist with the driving, supervise, I suppose. Once you get to 16, you can go unsupervised, so it's quite good.
So anybody out there who's looking to get involved in motorsport, if they come down on Sunday, is it?
Correct, yep.
They're to the motorsport complex, which is, as I said, next to the AVALON Airport. Now we've heard a lot of stories about what might or might not happen with that complex over the years. What's the current situation with it? Is there any talk about any development, or is it basically as it is? So that's
it's status quo. It is status quo. There's no plans in the pipeline to do anything.
Does it surprise you that we haven't had sort of a real push to get a full-time, full-scale motorsport circuit out in Geelong, seeing how popular the sport is down there?
There has been attempts in the past. There has been a push from varying degrees, varying organisations, but yes, there has been a push to try and develop further, because it needs to be more inclusive, not just the disciplines that are currently out there.
Because I remember sort of, way back in the very old days that I suppose a precursor to this show in a way was Ken McPhail's Motorsport magazine of the year on 3GL every Saturday morning. I used to go and sit in Dad's car because it was the only thing that could get 3GL pick up over the other side of Melbourne. So there has been a very strong and proud tradition out there.
Yeah, motorsport is very strong out there. As a lot of people know, it's the Geelong Revival, which happens November, December each year. That was a current incarnation from the former Geelong Speed Trials, obviously with the factory out there as well. Ford used to be out there, so there was a very strong link to motorsport as well as motoring heritage.
So if anybody out there is interested down Geelong way, and what should they do? How do they get in touch with you, and what does it take to become a member?
Membership can be done online, gmsc.com.au, is the Geelong Motorsports Club. The Western District Car Club also have an online website as well. They certainly can deal with memberships. To get more information about it, you can hit gmsc.com.au has a lot of the information about the AUTOCROSS and the Khanacrosses, also the motorcars, as well as just come down on the day. Just come down, have a chat to a few people.
That's probably the way to go, isn't it? I mean, just get out there, and if you're not doing anything on the weekend, I mean, if you didn't sell your kidney and you can't afford to go out the other side of town, just head down to Geelong and see some real grassroots motorsport.
It is, yeah, perfect location too. It's really good.
That's it. Do we know what the weather's going to be like? I suppose that's always that's the main thing.
Rain, hail, shine, it's always brilliant.
Look, thanks for coming in. It's really good to catch up with you and see what's happening around sort of the regional areas. As I said, every time that we've had in the past, competitions or anything like that, we always get a huge response from people down in Geelong. So we know that there is a demand down there, and it would be great to see a move down there to see an actual racetrack down there at some stage.
Yeah.
But for now, we have the motorsport complex, and we're grateful for it.
Yes.
Matt, once again, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
No worries. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Coming up, we're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to catch up with all the news. Also, we're going to have some live music from our special guest, Nick Stratford, coming up a little bit later on in the program. But right now, we're going to take a break. You're watching In Pit Lane. We'll be right back. Okay, thank you for that, Matt. Thank you for that. Matt is now heading back to Geelong, and I'm going to say, look, you might, if you're watching us live on YouTube, you might realise that we've been decorating. We have been. And you'll see that the people we have to say thank you to that is Slipstream Race Graphics. As you might know, I mean, the old set was looking pretty second-hand. There was a bit of damage to it, and we put out a feeler over Facebook, and a lot of people very generously put up their hands, but Scott Williams and the team at Slipstream were first and foremost and said, hey, we can help you out. And as you can see, so if you're wondering about Slipstream Race Graphics, they specialise in a wide range of sign writing and branding services to bring a much-needed touch of professionalism to a race team. Whether it's vinyl cut or digitally printed signs to complete car wraps, the people at Slipstream are acclaimed for their work creating motorsport graphics for some of the world's top racers. Now, whether you or your team be large or small, you can contact Scott and his team at Slipstream Race Graphics for design ideas and industry-leading skills. And once again, to everybody, to Scott and all his team at Slipstream Graphics, thank you so much for this. I mean, it was something that we certainly couldn't have done by ourselves and couldn't afford to get done. So we really do thank you for your great support and assistance. And we've got some music coming up in just a moment. So if we can get you to pop up there, we will We've got a bit of a bonus coming up now. If, by the way, if you're on the YouTube channel next week on the program, one of the people who did put his hand up to help us out was Matt Cerny, a local Melbourne drag racer, and he'll be joining us next week. We're going to be talking all about the wonderful world of drag racing. But right now we've got a bonus track from our musical guest tonight, Nick Stratford, and yeah, we'll tell you all about Nick in just a moment. But right now, we'll let him get plugged in and ready to go. He's just tuning up there. You can see details of his album was coming up. We'll tell you about that in a moment. But yeah, it's called Yeah Nah, and it's out on iTunes, Spotify, and all of those other things, which we'll tell you about in a moment. But right now, he's going to play a bonus song for us, and it's called All for the Cause. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Stratford.
Kid in Nigeria's parents got killed in the war. So he begged and he worked and he begged just a little bit more. A man with some cash, an iPhone and a bunch of contacts was able to sell the kid for $500. This is the shit some people do, and the stuff that they'll put up with just to get themselves food, and it's all for the cause. Yeah, it's all for the cause. Family in Syria were trying to get out of town, moving to some way, hoping that en route they won't drown. Government's own family really don't care if they fail, but the family don't care. They see Europe as the holy grail. It's amazing to think of the shit some people do just to try to provide a better life for their kids' parents too, and to see that their family is just like you and me. Can you see that it's all for the kids? Yeah, it's all for the kids. Young girl in Pakistan just wanted to head off to school, not thinking that getting education would affect those who rule. They found out that she was heading out to learn, shot her in the face, hoping that she would never return. Can you fathom all of the evil shit that people do? 'Cause they think that they're right and that their God is better than you. I don't care what you think, just don't try to make me believe it too, 'cause that's just so rude. Yeah, we've all got a call.
Thank you for that. That's that. Hello to Peter Dutton if he's watching. Bastard. Thanks for that. Now we will be joining us a little bit later on to play us out with a song, another song from Melbourne called "Don't Get Up." And as we said earlier, people can get that on iTunes and Spotify.
iTunes, Spotify, in all good internet-y
All good internet
music stores.
stores. Okay, we'll give that a plug in just a moment, but for the moment, Nick, thanks a lot for joining us. And we'll be ready to go back to our friends at Channel 31 now. There's Nick's details once again. So if we head back to Channel 31, a countdown if you will, Peter.
Coming in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane here on Channel 31, Melbourne and Geelong. You might notice, the more eagle-eyed amongst you might notice that we've done a bit of redecorating, a bit of a change around, and we'd like to thank our friends at Slipstream Race Graphics who have helped out by doing the printing and all the rest of that great graphic design work, which is you can see behind us and around us. So we really do appreciate that. We've got a lovely, the Orson Welles shop once again. So thank you to Slipstream Race Graphics for their support and for helping us out on that. Now, look, let's talk about... no, we can't put that up, actually. I'm going to get in all sorts of trouble now. We're going to have to do a cut there, and I'm going to start again, if you don't mind. We can't put the logo up on Channel 31, so I will start again by saying... So can we start in again, Pete?
Okay, coming in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane on Channel 31. Well, the more eagle-eyed among you might have realised that we've had a bit of a better homes and gardens moment there, and we'd like to thank people from Slipstream Race Graphics, Scott Williams and his team out there. Scott, you might know from the world of supercarts, been around for a long time in the local supercart scene. Put his hand up and said, "Look, I can help you guys out." When we had like all sorts of terrible things happen to our old set, and it was time for a change anyway. So thank you to Scott and to Slipstream Race Graphics. Now, look, I can't say it was a huge weekend of motorsport, but it was a weekend of motorsport, so we might as well have a look what happened with the In Pit Lane Motorsport News.
Audi driver Rene Rast hasn't yet given up on the defence of his DTM title. The reigning champion backed up his win in Saturday's race at the Nürburgring with another victory in race 2 on Sunday. Rast's dream weekend has taken him into third place in the championship. Rast was followed home by Mercedes driver Paul di Resta, who had started the race from 11th on the grid, with BMW driver Marco Wittmann taking the final step on the podium. Di Resta's second place sees him close to within just 2 points of championship leader Gary Paffett, who finished 5th on Sunday. A popular victory for local Ducati rider Andrea Dovizioso at the San Marino MotoGP at Misano. Jorge Lorenzo started on pole alongside Aussie Jack Miller and led the first 5 laps before Dovizioso passed him. Marc Marquez joined the party as the trio started to pull away at the front. Dovizioso then broke away from the battle to take the win for Ducati at its home track in front of almost 97,000 fans. Marquez was second to give Ducati a 1-2 result, with Cal Crutchlow taking third after Lorenzo crashed out late in the race. An incident-packed start to the latest round of the IMSA North American Sports Car Championship with a big accident at the rolling start, taking out some of the race's biggest names. Misha Goikenberg seemed to jump the start in his Oreca LMP2 car, striking the Cadillac DPI of João Barbosa. Barbosa was helpless as his car was then struck by leading GTLM competitors Dirk Muller in the Ford Racing GT and the Porsche 911 RSR of Nick Tandy. The race was eventually won by the ESM Nissan of Pippa Durrani and Johannes van Overbeek. BMW won in GTLM with the team of Alexander Sims and Conor De Filippi taking BMW's second consecutive win of the season with the new M8 GTE. The championship will wind down with the final round, the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta in October. No shortage of action or hard driving at the annual Goodwood Revival meeting. The cars may be priceless and some of the drivers perhaps a touch past their prime, but there's no doubt within these guys and gals race that they race for keeps. Former World Superbike champion Aussie Troy Corser provided one of the weekend's biggest highlights, charging through the field on his 89-year-old supercharged BMW to take out the Barry Sheen Trophy. He gave the previous race leader a cheeky tap to the rear to say hi on the way through. On four wheels, the biggest crash of the weekend involved this Cortina, but despite the spectacular rollover, thankfully the driver was uninjured. And Brad Keselowski has won the Brickyard 400, the latest round of the NASCAR Cup Series. After 2 days of rain delay, the skies stayed clear long enough for Keselowski to give team owner Roger Penske his first NASCAR win at the famous Oval, ahead of Eric Jones. Danny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer rounded out the top five.
Well, anybody who'd list their musical influences, including The Sound of Music, Donny Osmond, The Wacky Racers, McHale's Navy, both Sherbet and Skyhooks, The Angels and The Oils, has got to be worth an invite onto In Pit Lane. Nick Stratford's a Melbourne-based singer-songwriter, and his second album, Yeah Nah, is about to be released on iTunes or wherever it is that one buys music these days. Tonight he's going to take us out from the show with a song from the album Yeah Nah. So from all of us here at In Pit Lane, until next week, here's Nick Stratford and Don't Get Up.
Don't get up, it's far too early. Just lie back and hit the snooze. Don't get up, I'll bring some coffee. You won't even have to choose. Don't get up, I'll bring some breakfast. Scrambled eggs with toast and tea. Read a book, enjoy the morning. Just lie back and think of me. Round and round it go, where we stop nobody knows. Only when we get there, we'll know that it's up and down again. And it's mucking with my brain, and I like to think that everything will work in the end. Don't get up, I'll make it better. Squeeze some juice and make it sweet. Don't get up, I will get better. I'll make sure there's enough to eat. Round and round it go, where we stop nobody knows. Only when we get there, we'll know that it's up and down again. And it's mucking with my brain, and I like to think that everything will work in the end, in the end.
Good night. I'm not sure why we're rolling the credits now. Way too late to be rolling the credits, but we're rolling the credits anyway. There you go. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
We can now go to black. Thank you. Go to black. Go away. No? Ladies and gentlemen, there is a mutiny in the control room. The show has officially finished, but no.